My name's Carla Babb, and I work the Pentagon beat. That access helps me to do better stories. Every day it's my responsibility to collect all of the defense news. It keeps our VOA viewers informed. I get to travel all across the globe. Anything that's defense related and how to protect and keep people safe, that's where I'll go. So it's never a dull moment at the Pentagon. My name is Carla Babb. This is my beat.
Election night 1 year ago, Donald Trump stuns the world with a presidential victory few saw coming.
To all Republicans and Democrats and independents across this nation, I say it is time for us to come together as one united people.
At his inauguration, Trump made a pledge to the working class voters who largely fueled his victory.
Politicians prospered, but the jobs left and the factories closed. This American carnage stops right here and stops right now.
Trump's election signified a seismic shift in U.S. politics, says strategist John Feary.
I think the Republican base voter is now a Trump voter, and they see any effort to stymie President Trump from the Republicans as a direct assault on them.
But Trump's presidency got off to a rocky start with a massive protest march and a dispute over the size of his inaugural crowd, through spokesman Sean Spicer.
This was the largest audience to ever witness an inauguration, period, both in person and around the globe.
I, Neil M. Gorsuch, do solemnly swear.
The president scored an early success with the confirmation of Justice Neil Gorsuch on the Supreme Court.
The stock market just hit an all-time record high.
And he gets high marks for his handling of the economy, a booming stock market, and military gains against Islamic State. But Trump and his Republican allies suffered a setback with the defeat of a health care bill in the Senate.
The ayes are 49, the nays are 51. The motion is not agreed to.
That left the president's agenda effectively stalled, says Alan Lichtman.
No ruling party with unified control of government has ever come up as empty as the Trump administration and the Republicans who control the Congress of the United States.
The president's Twitter habit provided plenty of distractions, as did some controversial remarks following violent protests in Charlottesville, Virginia.
But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
The turmoil and lack of success in Congress have kept Trump's poll ratings low, says Larry Sabato.
A large majority of Americans now believe that Donald Trump is doing a poor job as president. They disapprove of his job performance, and it's going down rather than up.
But Trump's election-style rallies and tweets have kept his base fired up and ensured loyalty among most Republicans in Congress, says Matthew Dalek.
Because he has this pretty tight hold on 35, 38%, makes it very hard for the Republicans who control Congress to openly challenge him.
Yet recent criminal indictments in the Russia probe also threaten to cast a shadow over the White House, adding to the uncertainty of where Trump's presidency is headed, says Sabato.
So can he turn it around? Yes. Can he get reelected? Sure. Now, sometimes the hard part's getting elected the first time. But he's making it difficult on himself, both for passing his agenda and for keeping the Congress in Republican hands and for getting reelected.
Trump's election was a defining moment in U.S. politics, but its impact on the country and the world remains an open question. Jim Malone, VOA News, Washington.
Did you vote today?
From the liberal college student to the conservative West Virginia coal miner,
The election, the future for the coal industry.
Jeff Deutschmann's documentary 11/8/16 follows American voters during Election Day last November. He showcases 16 out of the 50 voters his team of filmmakers had followed that day across the United States.
We wanted it to be a broad
cross-section of individuals that represented, diversity geographically, demographically, and ideologically.
11816 shows that people voted on issues they felt affected them personally. The film also shows that most believed media projections that Hillary Clinton was going to win.
The election will be over by 9 o'clock. They'll call it by 9:30, and everything will be peaceful and wonderful.
What if it goes the other way?
What? Not going to go the other way. No way. Mark it down.
Jeff Deutschman says his documentary reveals deep cultural divisions in American society the media missed.
So I think it's important not to get stuck in the echo chambers that we all live in. We surround ourselves with people virtually and in real life that are like-minded, and I understand that. I do it as much as anyone. But I think it's really important to try and regularly confront the fact of how big this country is, and to allow that vastness to inform the decisions that we make about how we vote and, how we speak.
The film does not take sides. We get invested in these 16 characters who, despite their political leanings, make compelling arguments based on their circumstances, as in the case of Tom, a small businessman from Massachusetts.
When Hillary gets elected, and I think she's going to get elected because she's going to
cheat.
She's going to cheat. She's going to raise the taxes on everybody, and healthcare right now is crushing us anyway. So I'm concerned that we're going to have a tough time making ends meet.
Take that stupid hat off, man.
I will not take this hat off.
On the other side of the spectrum, the documentary also shows the concerns of minorities if Donald Trump won. Deutschman says a year later, America remains deeply polarized across the same lines. He hopes that films like his, by humanizing the American electorate, can encourage dialogue. Penelope Poulou, VOA News.
Oh my goodness, it's Ro. How's it going?
It's Saturday night, study hour. But first, time to catch up.
3-2 share.
Deja Sawyer is in her last year of college and waits on tables at a restaurant. But her life goals are on a ballot.
I plan on returning back home to St. Petersburg and running for city council in 2020-21. Then after that, I aspire to become the first African-American female mayor of the city of St. Petersburg.
To get prepared, Sawyer attended a ready-to-run training program.
Women know the world in a different way.
Here they learn campaign nuances. And the toughest task, fundraising.
Next time you go to a wedding, you're going to be like, here I am at a fundraiser.
I've had friends all my life tell me that I should run for office, and I've always had that little voice in the back of my head saying, no, you're not good enough, you're not qualified, who would want to listen to you?
Females make up more than half of the U.S. population, yet just about 20% of all senators and representatives are female, and even fewer are women of color.
Greeting, Mr. Ramos. My name
In California, Aja Smith is trying to change that.
And I'm a congressional candidate for District 41.
Smith says money intimidates minority women. She's raised $10,000 with a goal of $100,000 by January. Smith is a military veteran running against an incumbent male Democrat who's never served in the military.
We are the largest employer in this area.
Smith says she looks more like her community than a traditional Republican, who she describes as a rich old white man. Halfway across the country in Naperville, Illinois, a woman who is another first-time politician making her run for Congress is Democrat Jennifer Zordani. As she watched the district's Republican congressman get more and more conservative,
I thought, am I going to keep complaining? Or am I going to get out there and work?
First, she has to win the Democratic primary against the
Chihuahuan Desert.
The Chihuahuan Desert, which spans more than half of the border between Mexico and the U.S., covers much of West Texas, arguably a perfect place for a fort.
On one side, you see the high wall of rocks that could either protect or make more precarious the fort location. And on the other side, you see the vast open desert for which the military would be able to see their enemies coming for miles.
That could be why Fort Davis, established in 1854, is considered one of the best surviving examples of a military post in the American Southwest. The site also honors the Buffalo Soldiers, freed African-American slaves who joined the U.S. Army following the Civil War. They were called Buffalo Soldiers because Plains Indians thought the soldiers' hair resembled that of buffalo, an animal the Indians greatly revered. The Buffalo Soldiers stationed at Fort Davis served from 1867 to 1885, where they played a major role in the settlement and development of the American West. Their mission was to protect travelers and the mail on the San Antonio-El Paso Road and to support military operations to control hostile American Indians. Today, the National Park Service is sensitive to the plight of the Native Americans in and around that area at the time of the fort's existence, but is proud, nevertheless, to preserve this historic site as a lasting memorial to all the U.S. soldiers who faithfully served their country for almost half a century. Julie Tabo, VOA News, Washington.
It is a moment every aspiring baseball player strives for.
Gift Ngope is coming in on the double switch.
At first, major league appearance.
This is what you've been working hard for all these years, and this is what you've dreamed for since you were a little kid.
For 27-year-old South African Gift Ngope, the dream came true with the Pittsburgh Pirates April 26th.
My heartbeat was very hard, and it felt like it was beating a little bit out of my chest.
Up against pitcher John Lester of the Chicago Cubs World Series championship team, Ngope did more than just step to the plate.
A nation and a ground single into center field for Gift Ngope.
He reached first base on a well-placed hit, entering the history books as the first Major League Baseball player born on the African continent, competing in a sport unfamiliar to many in South Africa.
Baseball is not very popular because we compete against 3 other sports, cricket, rugby, and soccer. So, you know, the youth development for baseball is not going to be as strong.
But Gift Ngope was born to baseball, literally. His mother worked for the South African Randburg Mets Baseball Club, and the family lived in a small apartment near the field.
I rolled out of bed and I was on first base, and that's how it was for me. I started playing baseball at the age of 3. I was throwing the ball against the wall, and the coach called me over and he was like, "Hey, you got a pretty good arm, why don't you join the team?"
At 18, Ngope caught the eye of the Pittsburgh Pirates, who offered him a contract that brought him into the organization's minor league system, where he formed a friendship with fellow teammate Josh Bell.
Having the courage to make that first step, say, "Hey, I'm coming over to the States. I'm going to try to learn this game as best I can." It's incredible.
While Ngope is the first from Africa, he isn't alone.
Dovydas Neverauskas making his major league debut, the 24-year-old from Lithuania.
Just before his debut, the Pittsburgh Pirates called up Ngope's minor league teammate, Lithuanian-born pitcher Dovydas Neverauskas from the Indianapolis Indians, prepping him to take on the Chicago Cubs.
Got there during the game and I got to pitch in the game at the same time, so it was like, didn't really have time to think once I got to the field.
Now the first Lithuanian Major League Baseball player, Neverauskas understands the importance of his own historic moment.
Because if I do good, team's going to see there's some potential in Lithuania, and maybe send some people to look more, for more players.
His time with the Pirates lasted just 1 game.
Neverauskas' pitch right down the middle.
Neverauskas now waits for another chance in the minor leagues.
It's tough knowing that as you play today, there's another player and every organization trying to take your spot. I guess it makes it a little bit easier for us to just focus on winning and focus on the now. And I feel like Gift is a perfect example of that.
Gift Ngope remains with the Pirates for now and is exceeding even his own expectations.
It's been unbelievable for me. The story just keeps on growing bigger.
While Gift writes the next chapter, His younger brother Victor hopes to have his own storybook career. The 19-year-old is following in his brother's footsteps, also securing a contract with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and plays on a minor league team in Florida where he prepares for his chance to make it to baseball's biggest stage. Kane Fairbaugh, VOA News, Cincinnati, Ohio.
An online restaurant that works with refugee chefs like Majid. Trained to cook in Syria and living in a state of constant war, his parents told him to leave.
My name is Eva Maktan. I started working at VOA in 1998. We're originally from former Yugoslavia, so we moved to America right when the war started. In 91, when I came here, in class I would always spend a lot of time doodling. With wall art, graffiti, it opened up the door to exploration for a teenager. But you can definitely come out and do a piece like this, or do a piece like this, and it would be recognized. And you also tell a story through it. I connect art with journalism because it's a story that changes. And it's not just a view, it's not just a personal perspective, it's a story. And it's a story to be told. And that's it.
I'm Jim Malone, and I work the political beat. I cover what drives the political issues in the United States, what voters think, what drives the candidates, how public opinion shifts on one issue or another. It keeps you in touch with the American people and where they want the country to go. It's a great way to get a window on what's happening in the United States. I'm Jim Malone, and my beat is U.S. politics.
Without any organizations of their own to represent and advocate their interests, the Jews in the USSR are often defenseless in the face of anti-Semitism. An excerpt from a letter by Refugee Jews to the 26th Congress of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, Chronicle of Current Events, issue 61.
Hello, this is Parallels Events People for Voice of America, and I'm your host, Natala Baltyanskaya. We are now in the building of the Euro-Asian Jewish Congress. With the support and direct participation of the National Coalition Supporting Eurasian Jewry, we will tell you about the origins of the organization that the refusing Jews were in such a great need of and what it has grown into.
We knew that in general the creation of an organization is one of the most dangerous junctures. This organization was beyond the red line we imagined was lying between us and prison. Kaczorowski brought us all together and he said as a joke, "Guys, let's create a Jewish government. We'll call it Mashka." That's short for Ma'adon Leshtia Kabira, which means Club for Heavy Drinking.
For the first time, there was an understanding that apparently without fighting the regime itself, it would not be possible to also solve the main problem